Welcome. I am here with Deborah Roberts. Deborah, if you want to turn your camera on. I'm Chief Curator of the Contemporary Austin. Hello.
Hello.
And I'm here with Deborah to speak about her exhibition, that's currently on view at the Contemporary Austin's downtown location, the Jones Center. Deborah, as many of you know, is an Austin-born artist whose work confronts notion of beauty, identity, and race in contemporary society through the lens of Black children. She works primarily in mixed media collage, but as you'll see in this presentation, if you haven't already seen the show, she's been exploring new directions. Her exhibition at the Contemporary Austin features all new work, which was an incredible feat and a lot of work for Deborah, as well as the exterior of the museum, a new mural called Little Man, Little Man. The exhibition will be on view through August 15th, so we hope you'll all be able to come see it, maybe many times. And then it also travels to the MCA Denver right after, so we're super excited about that, and hopefully one or two other cities. Just want to thank our exhibition sponsors, as well as the Texas Talks Art sponsors, several of whom are here today. So thank you so much for making both the exhibition and the catalog, as well as this series of talks possible. So speaking about this series of talks, Texas Talks Art is a multi-institutional initiative to bring Texas artists to a wider audience. It takes the form of virtual 30-minute talks during the lunch hour. And it features 50 Texas artists in conversation with curators from 50 different institutions. And the talks are always free and Tuesdays at noon. And I just actually wanted to give a special shout out to my colleagues, Deborah Roberts at the Blanton and Mackenzie Stevens at the Visual Arts Center, because this did come about when we sank into the pandemic abyss and they just got a whole bunch of curators to Zoom together on Fridays when we couldn't be around art and we couldn't see each other. And this is one of the really great things that came about. So shout out to you two. And to everybody on those, all the curators on those calls who worked on this. I know there was a lot of effort that went into it. So just to let you know, this is going to be a little bit of a different format, trying to let some other voices into the conversation. It's part of our Open for Discussion series, and we are going to be basing the talk for 30 minutes around questions that were submitted in advance. So thank you for everyone who submitted. We obviously can't get to all of them. And then hopefully we're going to leave time, maybe 5 minutes at the end, for one or two chatted questions. So feel free to chat questions, and Deborah and I will see if we can answer one or two of them. Okay, so Deborah, first question is from Julia Purdy, and it's, how did we meet? And then, how do I discover new artists? And I guess by that I would say probably she's asking how do curators in general. So do you want me to take that one?
Sure, that'll be fine.
Okay, we met, I think it was 2014. We were introduced by a friend, longtime supporter of Deborah's work, and TCA board member Jeannie Klein. And I think I had several studio visits over the next several years, and then just had the opportunity to watch your work going in new directions, and then invited you to participate in the exhibition. I think it was spring 2019. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the second part of the question, how do I discover new artists, or how do curators in general? I would say to keep your eyes and your ears open, to put your nose and ears to the ground, to do the work, to go visit people, to always look when someone tells you to look, to always have curiosity when you see things in galleries and museums, and don't be afraid to pursue them. And in general, in Austin, I make every studio visit with everyone who asks, because it's so important to be part of the ecology of the community. And you'd be so surprised what you discover throughout your life as a curator. So I would say never lose the curiosity and always do the work. So now for our next question. Deborah, can you tell us a bit about the work in the exhibition? And we have a few installation images to accompany you.
All right, sure. So this piece is called Little Man, Little Man. I saw a video of this little kid dancing that I thought was fantastic. He looked the free as I ever saw somebody in a long time. And I took some stock poses. I just wanted to capture his spirit. And so that's how these little drawings came and collages came about. It's just showing the freedom that we want kids to have these days. And these works were when we were sheltering in place. I started working on Good Trouble and the Looking Glass. Actually, the Good Looking Glass, that's the one to the right, was done in 2019, but the one straight ahead was called Good Trouble. I did it for John Lewis, and I just wanted to notice that sometimes you have to go out and you have to protest, you have to make good noise. And I love the idea of these young boys, innocent, out there fighting for their rights and things. And yeah, and then this is Fighting the Isms. And then you can also see the black paintings in the background. And I really love this. I love the idea of making my kids higher on the plane of the canvas, so that you can see that they are little black kids tend not to be put on pedestals. So what is lacking is the pedestal in that work. And she is saying, stop. Stop all the sexism, racism, classism, all the things that colorism, all the things that prevent me from being my full self, which I really love this work too. And yeah, these are just a series of works that I created for the show. This is, you can see the size shift in the work and these works in particular. I don't know what happened after I got back into the studio. It seemed like the images wanted to take up more space and the canvas, that it was that the white gaze did not seem as important to these works or to the work that I was creating. And I really loved the heroicness of the image size of these works. Yeah, and so so those are silk screens I did at the Rauschenberg residencies, the little small ones. Also, you can see the confessional of What If, and the disobedience piece to the right, when it talks about peacefully protesting. And Black people are not allowed to peacefully protest. We're always, the police come down very hard on that and tend to label them as animals. So this piece is talking about, the idea of the little girl. She has little monkeys on her shirt and they're running away, and then she has the peaceful sign up. Yeah, love that piece too.
Great, thank you. And I love how the installation looks with the specific lighting that you chose and those accent walls and the gray. Another question we have is about the confessional, which we saw actually in the last image on the left side. The question was, how did a project like the confessional sound installation develop, and what drew you to work in immersive multimedia? And so we could just pull up the image, and if you wanted to speak about it, then you can put the image down.
Mm-hmm. Well, I went on a little trip. I went on a boat ride on a cruise to Alaska, and I really wanted to kind of relax my brain because I was thinking about doing something. I haven't done anything in installation since grad school, and I wanted to figure out what it was going to look like. And it was the last day that the confessional and three other projects came into existence, and I just started working really hard, writing it down as much as I could before it went away. And the confessional was one of those pieces. Now it was developed more as we worked into the studio. As it relates to my text-based work, it ties into this notion of 400 girls gone missing over the course of several years, and no one's really looked for them. So I wanted to make them visible to people. Also, I wanted you to be able to sit inside that confessional and pull the curtain and experience what it's like to live in a body that no one recognizes or values. And so there's a big mirror in front, and there's bars on the top because it feels at times a prison. And then all the names are protruding out. So you're being, kind of squeezed into that notion of self and this body that has been traumatized at times. And so that's what the confessional, and the mirror is asking you um, to reconcile your own place in that moment. What are you doing to create this? What are you doing to help? So that's what the confessional is about.
I love that. You can't avoid yourself. You can't say it's someone
Nope.
else. Can you tell us about the audio and
Exactly.
video component as well?
Yeah, the audio is I have two voices speaking. One guy is really talking negatively about and condescending about Black bodies and Black little girls, and rendering them um, less than innocent. And then the other side, I have a competing voice just saying, "My child is wonderful. She's beautiful. She has blonde hair, blue eyes. She is amazing and adorable. And this is someone we should put up, on a pedestal and take care of." So you have this. So as you listening to these things, I hope that you are exposed and hearing the duality in how people look at little Black girls and little white girls. And then the video part on the other side is also speaking to that notion about, classism and naming and shaming and beauty and what is considered beauty and things like that. So it's really important also.
Thank you. We have another question from Lise Burr, and the question is if you could please comment on the group of paintings at the end of the show, the 4 with Black backgrounds, which I'll just add was the first time, Deborah, you've ever worked with Black on Black. And the questioner says where she senses a connection to Carrie James Marshall's Invisible Man, and the final piece, which she found joyful in an unexpected way. So how did the display come about, as well as when during 2020 were you making these, like locate that? And sir, if
Right.
you're gonna just pull up that painting. Yep.
Actually, we started working on these late 2019 and into 2020. And I was trying to figure out, talking about those women that have gone missing, why no one could see them. They were absent and present at the same time. They was visible yet invisible, and they were seen and unseen. And so I created, as I normally do, this portraiture type of face, but I wanted to obscure the body. I want the body to go in and out, her presence. And also use a chalk outline to go around the images as if that this was some type of body that was there and then it was taken away. And I chose to use Black on Black because I just wanted them to disappear in the darkest of colors that I knew of. As far as Carrie James Marshall's Invisible Man, I mean, I really wasn't thinking about anything like that. And my works, I was talking about the idea that how could all these women go missing and not be on the top of a newspaper every day or in the media and CNN. So I wasn't really thinking about other artists. I'm glad that someone could put that scholarship to the work and put me in conversation with Carrie James Marshall, who is one of my art heroes. I just wasn't in my brain. It was this idea of these missing women.
Well, and it's so, those works are so incredible because they're almost impossible to photograph the experience of the painting. And I love when you talk about how you sort of mastered the Black painting over
Right.
time, and you can
Right.
see that. And to me, I also see like formal relationships to like Ad Reinhardt's Black painting and the way it plays with your eyes. And there's just such a kind of mastery of abstraction happening there with the Black
Mm-hmm.
painting.
Mm-hmm.
So Another question from Catherine Vaughn, who actually works in VRS at the museum. And she says, there's one figure in one of the collages that has no eyes. I think that's actually duty of disobedience. All the other figures in the show have at least one or two eyes. What is the significance of the eyes in your work and the number, where they're looking, how they appear? And I thought this question was great because when I am giving tours of your show, there's such a attention to the gaze of these figures. And it seems like it's such an important part, as well as your collaging of specific eyes. So we brought two images for this. We brought Good Trouble and I See You. So Sarah, if you want to pull those up. And Deborah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I wanted to do was to draw the viewer into seeing this person, these kids, as humans. Once you see yourself and other people, it's hard to destroy that. And so the eye is always going to be looking forward. There's always going to be an eye looking directly into the audience and asking them for that little act of humanity. The eyes are very important. The woman who, I mean, it's the little girl that does not have any eyes. It's the idea of justice being blind. There is two justice systems in America, and we all recognize that and see that all the time. And how doing something that is our constitutional right to protest, when Black people do it, it is something lesser than. And when we had the insurrection a few months back, we could see how police treated those people who was destroying the United States Capitol. So that's why that is important. And I See You, this, like I said, this is a screen I did at the Rochabrook Residency. And I took two faces and I merged them together. One of a little kid who is being defiant, the bottom face, and the top is a beautiful little girl that's behind me. And I merged those faces together to say, yes, I'm beautiful. Why? Why don't you think that? And so just a defiant look of a really soft look and another one that is merged together. And I love the idea that one of the preparators had to lower the work so that they were at children's height. And I think it's just amazing. I think this work is really important. When I did these, I did kind of like action painting where I just, cut out a whole bunch of paper and I just screen, move, and trying to create just different techniques and textures and saying that we're not a monolith, even though it's the same face, each one is different in some way, and asking the audience to see that. So when I say, I see you,
That's great. And could I just ask a question to that question about sort of the choices you make about choosing different eyes specifically for your works? And I mean, you can go into specific or not about the individuals, but I love how you choose young and old, you choose different kinds of eyes. What does that mean to you?
It's a lifetime. This is a lifetime struggle. I talked to one of my friends the other day, and she said it's very exhausting. Who would think that we're in our 50s and we still have to deal with some of the same things over and over? And so when I have them so young and put the old eyes, it's just kind of forecasting what's ahead, that this is going to happen over and over within your lifetime. And so that's why I have the young eyes and the old eyes. I have young hands and old hands in the work, and some hands that are holding the images, holding the kids, for, the fight that's ahead.
Yeah, and I think they have both a young and joyful and vulnerable quality, and then they do have like a lot, the figures have kind of the sad, older feeling to them juxtaposed together. So
yeah,
let's see.
The children are the hope in the work, so I'm hoping that people see that.
Yeah. There's been a question, it wasn't in our list, but it's actually a really great thing to talk about with this exhibition and your work in general in the last 1 to 2 years. Somebody chatted about, she understood that you primarily depicted Black girls, and then there's been a shift to boys as well. And could you speak about that? I think that is a good topic to mention.
Well, I mean, I didn't shift to boys. I added boys. I was doing a lot of shows all across the country in 2017, 18, and a lot of Black men would come up and say, hey, what about us? We are criminalized for just walking down the street. We are criminalized for driving a nice car, blah 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 blah. While I understand that, I hadn't thought about adding boys right away. I took a summer and I started with my George Stinney works. I started with a couple of works before that, and then went into the George Stinney works. And just like anything, the work takes time to develop. I'm still developing the boys. I'm trying to find that voice that hit on that tone like I do with girls. I'm a woman. I know what it's like to be a young girl. I'm listening to more literature, Juno Diaz, just trying to figure out what it's like to be a young man existing in America when people think that you're a criminal. And so that's why you see a lot of stripes and patterns in the boys' shirt.
And then in particular, also the mural on the streets of Boston, which you talked about those boys not, wouldn't feel comfortable walking down the
Well, I
street.
mean, he's happy and joyful, and everybody loves it. Let him come off the wall and pull up his hoodie and walk down the street. See how many people clutch their purses, automatically. So he's also at that point, he's now not a happy little kid. He's a potential person who's going to rob you. So, and that's real. That's not anything I'm making up.
Absolutely. We have another question, which is actually in two parts. Rudy Green has submitted a question saying, what artists have been the greatest influence on your current work? And I'm going to combine that with part two, which is a question from Texas Talks Art. Can you name another artist specifically working in Texas that you admire?
Well, there's a lot of artists in Texas that I admire. I can't limit it to one person. There's a lot of artists doing amazing work. Now we have in a boom in Austin with tremendous women artists and men who are creating beautiful works. I love the work of John Biggers. I love the fractured nature of his work. Um, I don't think that it influenced the current work that I'm doing, but it has a place in that work when he was talking about seeing people as whole people and seeing them as fractured. Um, um, and I forgot what's the first part of Rudy's question was.
Rudy asked, what artists, more generally speaking, have been the greatest influence on your current work?
I don't know. I mean, I talk about a lot of artists. I talk about Romeo Bearden. I talk about Hannah Hawk. I love Kirk Schwitter. I think his text and how he approaches using collage as power as to gain agency in the world. I love current collage artists. I love Wengechi Mutu. I think she does an amazing job in her collage work, and Micheline Thomas. So I think that really so funny. I think there's an idea of being inspired by artists and copying artists. So there are a lot of artists whose work may not be like we talk about Kerry James Marshall, and I just love their work, and it's just really important, for me to kind of add it into the ideas of that work into my stuff. So.
And I guess I would add to that, how important for you, Deborah, is the kind of dialogue with your artist colleagues, and how does that kind of feed your practice and just,
It's fun. You got to jump on my Instagram on every third Saturday. I get on and start chatting it up. And this week was really great because I had three amazing artists who were friends of mine jump on, and we're not traveling. We don't get to see each other and go and complain at lunch and Chelsea and all these wonderful restaurants I love to go to in New York. so it's kind of good to talk to them. We're all zoomed out though, so we just talk on the phone. But it's it's COVID. What can we do?
We do the best we can.
Exactly.
Let's see. I think we have time for one more question, and it says, how much of your work deals with the theme of intersectionality?
How much do my work deals with that?
Seems like almost all of it, but
Yeah, yeah. I think all of it. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess maybe we could end it by, we could rephrase the question too, and just thinking about like how, I know at times you've talked about the intersection of these different, pop culture, American history, and how, you know, how is it important to bring all of those elements together? And also maybe over time, given what is happening in the world, has that been shifting? Have certain aspects become more important than others?
Uh, no, not really. I still use those four approaches with art history, American history, pop culture, Black culture. All those things still play a very significant part of my work. I think what's happening is I'm trying to create new pathways to talk about this work, and I think if anything is changing, I think it's going to be materials. How can I use different types of materials to talk about sexism and racism and identity and all those things. Um, I think that's the biggest change or things that I'm interested in. Um, I don't really know how to answer that question. I mean, it's like, who knows? I mean, you have to bring your own interpretation to the work and try to unpack all the subtleties and all the secrets that lie in the work that are not easily and readily available to you. But if you look deeply, you're going to start seeing things. And that's what I call the medicine. I give you the sugar and the honey. The medicine is behind that. And you have to really look at the work to figure it out. Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense to me. We have a couple more minutes, and we did get a question about the text work.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, would you be interested in just talking a little more about the text works that go
Sure.
through the show?
Yeah, yeah, I love the text work. The text work is just like my collages. Like I said, talk about. I remember when it came about, the sovereignty piece. I guess the pieces that we have in the show right now is we, they, and we are not greater than or less than they. And you can pick out who's the we and who is the they. And Quiniqua is mild as milk, and Lacandria is a noun. And so the whole idea of the text work is to give you a visual without having an art piece, without having a visual piece. So if you would say Anquiniqua is mild as milk, if the image comes up with a black girl who you think is ghettoized and has hoop earrings on and chewing gum and very loud, then you have a problem. If you're thinking about we or they, and if it's always a separate thing, then that's something that you have to unpack. So what I'm trying to do in sovereignty and pluralism is to give you an idea to think of these names differently and think of what I'm saying differently. And I guess it's always the text piece is always going to be work. I think the collages are cute enough and bright enough to kind of, not ask the viewer to do a lot of work. But if you're willing to do the work, you can find that in the text piece and in the collages, but not as much.
What I love about the confessional what if is that you pull that all together.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I have the text in there. You go in there and don't take the text off the wall, but you could feel the that texture of the felt and the blackness and the darkness and the coldness of that. It just tells you that we struggle with a lot of things that probably are not on the outside, they're on the inside. And I think this work is inviting you in. And I hope more people go in and really listen and understand what I'm saying in that work.
I hope so too. And I think that's a perfect place to end at 12:31 for our lunchtime talk. And Deborah, it's been, the privilege of a lifetime to work on this show with you. And I am so excited for more people to be able to see it as things gets better. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye, everyone.